What is one random act of kindness a stranger did for you? Years ago I was on a summer road trip with some friends from Dallas to Austin. On the way down, the battery meter on my dashboard started acting funny. Jumping up then dropping down, all sorts of weird stuff. We make it down to Austin and we're supposed to go see my one friend's show, but I say I'm going to run to an AutoZone and see about buying a new battery. It was 6 or 7 p.m. and I assumed all the mechanics were closed. I should also say that this is way before smartphones were a thing, and only one of us even owned a cell phone. I buy a new battery and install it in the parking lot. Turn the car on, and it's not the battery that was the issue. Shit. I go and meet my friends after the show and say we should leave that night instead of the next morning. My rationale being that if we drive at night, we won't need the AC. This is Texas in the middle of the summer, so even at night it's going to be hot, but not unbearable, and therefore can use less battery power. We all pile in my car and get about 20 miles outside the city when my car dies. While we didn't need AC, we did need headlights. We are pulled over on the side of the road. My friend with the cell phone calls AAA, and they say it'll be an hour or so before anyone is able to make it out. While we're standing there on the side of the road, in the near pitch black, a truck pulls over in front of my car. A man gets out and starts walking towards us. All of my friends take a step back, nominating me to do the talking, get killed first. The man asks us what the problem is. I reply that my car's dead. He says he has a tow chain in the back of his truck, and would be able to tow us to Dallas, which is about 200 miles away. This seems like a terrible idea since I'll have to ride in my car steering and using the brakes since it's only going to be attached by a chain. But I was 19 years old and stupid, so after my friends and I talk it over, we say okay. He says that he's got a small trailer at his place about 50 miles away that we could use to tow my car, but until then, I'm steering a dead car about 3 feet away from this guy's bumper. Myself and my ex-girlfriend are in my car, and my other 2 friends are in the truck. It wasn't until later that I learned the story of the truck driver from my friends who were riding with him. Turns out, a year or so earlier he'd been diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. Instead of doing treatment, he decided to accept his fate and spend whatever time he had left driving all over Texas helping people who were stranded on the side of the road. I can't remember his name anymore, but I'll never forget him rescuing us that night. Yes. Texas rocks. When Hurricane Harvey hit, the outdoor stores ran out boats and the highways were packed with trucks to go help rescue people, despite being told not to and to let the professionals deal with it. Texas said a big fuck you to that and we took care of our own. I remember watching the news and seeing the footage of people helping people and it was absolutely incredible. A little beauty in a whole lot of tragedy. When I was 9 or 10 I missed the school bus. This big guy picked me up and run towards the bus screaming to try to make the bus stop. It eventually did and he put me inside of it and then dipped. I couldn't even say thanks. And I was a chubby one no less. One of my most vivid childhood memories is of me at the local bar and grill with my parents, and I was like 6 and looking at a very specific doll in a claw machine. It was Tweety Bird in a spacesuit. I was so zoned out, I didn't even know someone walked up until the claw came down, picked it up, and dropped it in the chute in one fell swoop. I turned to see a man who looked homeless, transient, taking the Tweety Bird out of the chute and immediately bending down and handing it to me. Neither of us said anything, just smiled at each other, and then he turned and walked out of the restaurant. I'm a Seahawks fan living in Arizona. In 2011 a regular at the Starbucks I worked at gave me 4 tickets to the Seahawks at Cardinals game. It was the last game of the year, so he also gave us the money that was left on his stadium food card. He said it was use it or lose it and that it had about $200 left on it. The seats were club level and my 3 friends and I ate like kings. As a thank you we pulled in and got him a $100 Starbucks gift card. My wife and I saved up to buy a nice, for us, Grew years ago, but we never thought of how to get it home. We were trying to get it in the trunk of our little car, and were just about to resort to opening the box it came in to put it in piecemeal when a guy who'd been sitting in his truck eating dinner in the parking lot came up and asked if he could help us transport it to our place. We lived 20 miles away, and he was still more than happy to drive it to our house and drop it off and refused any kind of payment for helping. I was on a trip on Norway and it was literally my last night in the city and the country. I lost the midnight train, but no problem, I could still take the first train in the morning. In the meantime, I went to the dock because that's where all the nightlife was. The bar closed at 2 a.m. and the train passed at 5 a.m., so a guy I had met at the bar told me there's no way you're gonna spend 3 hours walking around, and he took me to his house. He gave me the worst coffee I've ever had and we spent those 3 hours talking. Then he took me to the train station, bought my ticket to the airport, and before he left he told me I'm drunk and I haven't slept, so tomorrow I might not remember you, but it's been a pleasure helping you. I was an American in China and 6 months pregnant. I was at the train terminal and the hormones kick in. I start crying for literally no reason, which makes me only cry harder. A very tiny old Chinese woman grabs my shoulder and said something I don't understand. She then grabs me and gave me a huge hug. When she pulled away she gave me a great smile. It was exactly what I needed. Christmas Eve a couple years back. I had worked a shift at the hospital, not a doc or high-paid person, and was trying my best to get to my family's house about 2 hours away before dinner. My brakes on my car just are not working right. It's snowing like crazy, and I'm thinking there is no hope. I saw the local mechanic was still open, so I pulled in and told him what was going on. Half hour or so later he comes out and tells me what was wrong and that he had gone ahead and fixed it. I asked him what I owed him for the work. He said, "Get home to your family safe and have a Merry Christmas." I felt like I was in a Hallmark movie. It is now the only place I will take my car. Once I blew a tire on a pothole an hour from home, and by sheer coincidence, the first place I was able to pull off the road was an auto repair shop. But it was well past closing time. I was starting to panic, clueless young woman by myself, didn't even know if I had a spare in the trunk, let alone how to put one on, but I knocked anyway, hoping I wasn't completely fucked, and turned out the mechanic was still there. It was a nice old guy who took mercy on me even though it was late. Told me to sit in the office and calm down, and he put my spare on for me and charged me less than $10 for his trouble. I told him I would leave him good reviews on Yelp or Facebook or whatever, and he was very politely confused, said he didn't know whether they had pages there, but gave me a business card because there's a website on that. The next day my mom called and tried to buy him and his employees lunch, but he insisted it was fine, he just did what he would want anyone to do for his daughters. Nice mechanics are a special kind of angel. I had a cyst inside my ovaries that became incredibly painful out of nowhere. I was white as a sheet and managed to leave work and get to the pharmacy nearby. I was hunched over and even lying on the floor at certain times because I was in so much pain waiting in line. After I paid for whatever it was that I bought, a lady in line asked if I needed a ride anywhere. She took me to the urgent care clinic and even stayed with me to take me home. What an angel. I showed up 1 minute late to the airport to catch a critical flight. People were literally still going through security, but they wouldn't let me enter the line. I had a breakdown in the waiting area. Some random old guy came and handed me $20 and said, "I know this doesn't help whatever it is you just missed, but if they let you take the next one, at least go have a hot breakfast on me. Take care." And he just shuffled off on his way. I was floored. I'm now in my 30s. I've had quite a few over the years, and I try to repay it as I can to others. So here's a few random acts of kindness people have done for me. Flying back on military leave, had a stopover in Vegas. Was really hungry but military pay is kinda shit, so I figured I'd just get Burger King. Standing in line and some dude who wasn't even in line came up and just went, "Here man, you look tired, thank you for your service, let me get your meal." Handed me a $20 and walked away. I was like, wait, $20 is way too much just for BK. Got to the front of the line and ordered, came out to like $18. Apparently the Vegas airport BK is way more expensive. That surprised the shit out of me and I was glad he'd given me a $20. Crashed my motorcycle on a backcountry road. Group of bikers found me and called one of their friends to bring a truck, took me back to my apartment, took my bike to one of their guys' place who lived by me, and stayed with me to monitor. Ended up taking me to the ER a couple hours after because I started repeating myself. Had a concussion. They stored my bike for me for about a month till I could get my insurance payout and offload the wreckage. Watching the World Series in a crowded bar. Old guy next to me chatted throughout the game. End of the game said I reminded him of his son that he's drifted apart from but was going to make an effort to reconnect with after talking with me. We ended up back at the bar for the rest of the series, and when the Giants won, he covered the entire bar's tab. Also bought my dinners and drinks, unprompted, for every game of the series. When he picked up the whole place's tab I was like, WTF. He goes, my bonus alone last year was $300,000. Don't worry about it. I've had a lot of other times people have randomly bought me meals when I was pretty broke. So now sometimes I'll randomly buy the person's meal behind me in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru, or help other veterans out since I had old vets help me out getting on my feet. I volunteer with homeless orgs and Habitat for Humanity and food banks. You don't have to make six figures to give your time to others. Keep the random acts of kindness cycle going.